Hello and welcome back to another video here on GalenBuilds, where I buy, build, and review LEGO sets. Why am I scrolling over my window ledge? Well, as you can see here, I have a bunch of architecture skylines. These are prominent landmarks found in cities around the world, and I just love this theme. It's my favorite theme. So I'm trying to collect them all. I don't own them all, but I do have a few of them, and whenever LEGO comes out with them, I always want to pick them up and build them and showcase them. I also have a bunch of landmarks behind me as well on display. But yet again, why do I have this? Why am I showing this? Well, because we have a new one that just came out. January 1st, Singapore. This is set number 21057. It has 827 pieces. This is an updated box art, actually. The reason why I say this is if I go ahead and grab the old school style, there's distinct differences. So we've gone to the 18 plus packaging, where we have this right here at the bottom, this brick underlay, and then the black background, and then the theme in the corner, whereas before we would just have the architecture at the top, and then we would have the set prominently shown. But yeah, so they decided to update it. That's totally fine. It looks great. This is also the largest skyline that they've produced. It features a lot of great locations in Singapore, most notably Marina Bay Sands. This is one of the most popular tourist destinations. And then it has a bunch of other great stuff right over here. So if we flip this over, we can see those. I already opened it up to confirm contents and whatnot. That's why it's like that. But yeah, so we're going to be building a bunch of great places listed right over here. That being said, there's the name. Let's go ahead and get started. So before we get into the review process, I just kind of wanted to give you guys some more in-depth look at other skylines that have been made, and the evolution of those skylines. So like here we have prominently shown New York City, and then of course Dubai. These are two skylines that were introduced 3 years apart. So New York came out in 2016, Dubai came out in 2019. There are a lot of noticeable differences with these two skylines. So if we go to New York City, it is your run-of-the-mill 5 structures, really nothing fancy about the base, very concrete jungle-esque. That's New York City. It's very gritty, right? Like it's, steel, stone, and whatnot. Like it's got a lot of history, don't get me wrong, but like it doesn't really had a lot of depth. It's very generic. Yet again, I love New York City. It's like one of my favorite places, but when it comes to the skyline, like it's just like it could add a little bit more. But then you come to Dubai, it is colorful despite the desert. Like there's translucent blue pieces, there's water, these are prominent hotels and like landmarks like the Dubai frame. Like it's beautiful. It looks amazing. There's a lot of depth. The reason why I bring this up is New York is like maybe 5 studs in depth and about 30 across, but then when you come over to Dubai, it's about 30 across, 30 studs across. But then when you like shift this over, because of the prominent nature of these buildings, there has to be continued depth, that goes beyond the base, so there's a lot more to the structures. Like if you flip this over, this still is Dubai. Like it's noticeable from the backside. Like you could display it like this, no issue. Whereas like if you go to the New York one, yeah, you can tell what the structures are and everything, but it's just a little bland, right? Like there's not a lot of depth. So the reason why I bring this up is because it's the evolution of the themes, right? It's to add more depth, more color and everything, more prominence to the structures. So I just kind of wanted to show that, you know, give you guys an idea as to the direction of what the skylines are supposed to be like, and how adding that depth, adding that color choice, you know, goes a long way to the overall set, you know, and the experience of the build as well, you know. So that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the Singapore skyline. All right, so after giving you guys a little bit of an idea as to what previous skylines were like, this is the final build, and it is beautiful. I am impressed with the color choices. Just like I mentioned with Dubai, like the evolution of this theme, they're adding more color, more depth, you know, and it adds to the overall build experience. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, it features a bunch of prominent locations and landmarks. It flushes out the whole scope of the build to make it more full and more colorful. It makes it feel like more of a city, you know, like it's a skyline, but with a lot more at the base and then all the way at the top as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at these buildings, these structures. So, of course, like I mentioned, the most prominent one probably is going to be Marina Bay Sands that you see right over here. It's these 3 towers and then this structure right above to kind of give the idea of like a spaceship or a boat, you know. It's one of those really cool places that a lot of people like to venture to. There's these translucent blue pieces to give the idea of an infinity pool, which is like a super popular place a lot of people like to go to. And then right down below, there's a bunch of these man-made trees, which are called the Gardens by the Bay. They're just super beautiful. I love the color choices. And then as we continue along, we've got this place, which is the Fullerton Hotel. And then I do apologize, I might butcher this. This is called Lau Pa Sat. And then this tall white structure, which is right over here, is called the One Raffles Place. This one was probably the most complex of the builds and kind of like the most repetitive. It required a lot of these either 1x1 or 1x2 translucent dark gray pieces to add. And honestly, I think those could have just been 1x1 studs, you know, like just bricks, you know, instead of studs. So I don't know if this is just to add to the piece count, but out of all of the building structures, this was probably the most, you know, kind of tedious, you know, least fun. And then right next to it, we have this brown building, or gray, or I'm sorry, beige building, which is called the Ocbc Center. Like I mentioned before, I thought these were going to be print-on pieces, these print-on tiles to indicate the windows, and I was correct. There's a bunch of these. That's one of the really cool things about the architecture sets, especially the skylines. There are no stickers, so all of these are print-on pieces. And then down here below, we have the boat quay, which is, I believe, where all the boats dock and everything. Really just awesome, beautiful set. I just really enjoyed it. It was very therapeutic. And the reason why I brought up the previous sets was to show depth, right? Well, if I flip this over, the structures continue on the flip side. Like the buildings are on both sides. Like they continued the build on both sides. Like I would probably want to display it on the flip side, but just to show that they continued the build, it adds depth. It adds to the overall character of the build. I just really thought that was really great, and I really appreciated that. Like, I will continue to buy these Skyline sets just because I really appreciate them. I love architecture, so for me to be able to, you know, own some of these things, you know, and then consider, you know, going on a trip to these places, knowing that I have a little backstory on some of these places goes a long way. So that's my review of Singapore. I really highly recommend if you're a huge travel enthusiast, you love architecture, go out of your way to go pick this up, you know. It's a brand new set. It just came out January 1st. So that being said, thanks for joining. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I will see you guys at the next build.